Hey yo, Mark here for Mark's Max Muscle. And it's a perfect day for a challenge round. Welcome to the challenge round. Here's the breakdown. The first competitor, standing 5 feet 7 inches, weighing 245 pounds, Gastavo Badell. And his opponent, standing 5 feet 8 inches, weighing 260 pounds, Dennis James. Today's challenge round is brought to you by Giovanni, an official matchmaker of the challenge round. And we begin with the front relaxed pose. And once again, this is just a fantastic pairing, these two. I never would have thought of this myself. Giovanni did some digging on the internet to find these excellent matchups. Wow, definitely not making it easy for me as a judge. Now, in the breakdown, I will say, right out of the chute, I like Dennis James. I like him better in this pose. Structurally, he's just a big beast. I like it. It's in comparison. Gastavo, he just seems, it's not as large. Now, on the other hand, Gastavo Badell is in better condition by quite a little margin here. So, it makes it very, very difficult as a judge. Of course, James' conditioning isn't too bad here. I mean, it's not getting totally destroyed. And vice versa in the size. Definitely a close one. But I will give Dennis James just a slight edge on this one. So, as you may know, I judge these out of a possible 3 points from a total blowout victory, which we very rarely see, and an almost tie situation, which would be a 1-pointer, and just a regular victory, of course, just a 2-pointer. But on with the poses. Here in the front and double bicep, and it looks like Gastavo is going to get his first victory. His conditioning seems to be just head and shoulders above Dennis James here. You can see the separation in all the muscles. I will say, in Dennis James's defense here, his overall, the silhouette of his physique, I think is scoring a slight victory, but definitely not enough to score ahead. Gastavo looking very artistic here. So, on to the front lat spread. I am going to award Dennis James a slight victory here. I think his overwhelming silhouette is enough to scrape by a victory. See the just overwhelming X frame here. The very high inserted lats, but in my opinion, I like that coupled with a small waist and the big ginormous thigh sweeps here of Dennis James. If you'll notice the massive leg size. But again, Badell in better condition, so definitely not enough for a full 2-pointer, but slight victory for Dennis James nonetheless. Now, let's have a look at the ab and thigh. And it looks like James is going to lose another one here. I will say, in his defense, his thigh more than matches Gustavo's over there, and Gastavo might be in slightly better condition as far as the thigh is concerned. But then when you look at the abs, it's night night, all she wrote. Definitely warrants enough for a full victory here. So 2 full victories for Gastavo Badell and 2 slight ones for Dennis James. Puts Gastavo just slightly ahead heading into the next pose. Here in the side chest pose, and Dennis James is getting another victory. We'll say there's a startling similarity in the structure of these guys and their torsos, but Dennis James, he's crouched down quite a bit here and he's tilted a little bit better, so I think his display is a whole lot better. I think Gustavo's got a little bit of advantage in the arm department, but this being a side chest, I think James definitely has an advantage as far as the chest is concerned. There's Dennis James with that big barrel chest, very thick. And the legs are close. But overall, I'm going to give this victory to Dennis James. So let's get these gentlemen to turn around and display the rear double bicep. I get Badell scoring just a slight victory in this pose here. I don't think it's enough for a full-blown victory. And I'll explain why. I do think that he has superior back development. His lats insert quite a bit farther down. Although Dennis James has a wider lat spread, I do believe. But I mean, when you look at the detail in Gustavo's back and the arms, I think it warrants enough for a victory, but not a full-blown victory, as if you look at the glutes and hamstrings, legs. Definitely, he's not scoring a victory over Dennis James. So we're just going to scrape by Gastavo with a victory in the rear double bicep. Now let's have a look at the rear lat spread. I definitely think Dennis James should be more careful when he spreads those wings, because if the wind picks up, never mind. Yeah, definitely Dennis James scoring a victory in this rear lat spread. I do appreciate the detail and in the lower back, in particular in the lower back. Gastavo might be scoring it just slightly ahead. And the traps look good, but I think the lighting is very flattering. And if you really look at the traps themselves, I think Dennis James is scoring slightly ahead. And when you look at the lats, I mean, wow. Look at those lats. Just very impressive. And definitely scoring ahead in the legs and the glutes department. So warrants enough for a full victory here in the rear lat spread. So let's get these guys to turn back around and hit a most muscular. And I must say, every pose for these guys have been pretty similar as far as judging is concerned. And this most muscular is no different. Although I will say I will give Dennis James a slight advantage. So the traps here, you'll notice, are a little bit more prominent. I will say Gustavo's arms are massive here. But like I said, just a slight advantage to Dennis James. But this score is very, very, very close between these two gentlemen. So I definitely would like to see another most muscular pose. So if you'll indulge me, gentlemen, and hit a crab pose, perhaps. No, this really doesn't get me anywhere at all. I got just a slight advantage here for Gastavo. You notice Dennis, I think his chest is much wider and larger here, and his shoulder clavicle width. Although when it comes to shoulders, Gastavo is just like he's packing a little bit more meat, and his striations in his chest are more than doing battle with the size of Dennis James here. But it's very, 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 very close. So again, just a slight edge. And I hate to do this to you, gentlemen. I know you've been posing all day, but let's have one more variation of the most muscular, please. And I guess this is going to be the last pose, because, to be honest, we could continue this battle back and forth. But we gotta stop somewhere, and this, the third most muscular, gives Dennis James a slight, and I will say a slight advantage for just winning by a hair, winning this whole competition just by a slight hair. I will say Gastavo was winning in the conditioning department this whole tournament, and as in this picture as well. I just think the vascularity in James's chest here, and even the traps, as well as the arms, I think gives him enough for a slight advantage. Had this been another pose than the most muscular, then perhaps the waistline of Gastavo Badell would have edged him out of victory. But having said that, that last victory gives Dennis James enough for the win. Ladies and gentlemen, your challenge round champion, Dennis James. James now advances to the gladiator round. Well, that about does it for that one. As always, let me know in the comments section below if you have any other interesting combinations like Gastavo Badell versus Dennis James for an upcoming challenge round match. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit like, and if you haven't already, subscribe. That's it for now. This is Mark for Mark's Max Muscle.